It's time for Agriculture, presented by Turkana Farms in Germantown, New York, a small-scale producer of heritage breed livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres. They also produce a full array of garden vegetables, many of them heirloom varieties raised naturally, as well as an assortment of berries, including raspberries, blackberries, gooseberries, black, red, and white currants, mulberries, and elderberries. And now, here's Mark Scherzer.
Intimacy is a powerful and I'm sure genetically impelled need. The farm is, I'm constantly reminded, a hotbed of intimacy. One of the chief pieces of evidence is in who is sleeping with whom. And I'm not just talking about the human inhabitants. All our farm's mammalian creatures make choices about who sleeps with whom in a way that seems, as with humans, to relate to bonds of affection. I'm prompted to this recognition by observing the somewhat aberrant behavior of one of the youngest of this spring's ewes, Pepsha. And no, this is not going to be a racy description of Pepsha's kinky sexual tastes. When we humans talk about sleeping together, we tend to use the term as a polite way of referring to sexual activity. That seems to me an odd choice for a euphemism, because instead of substituting a term of trivial significance for the activity that shouldn't be mentioned, this substitutes a term that in itself implies considerable intimacy, in some ways as intimate as the sexual act itself. Sleeping together extends over a far longer period of time than most sex does. Okay, except maybe for the unusually gifted among you. It entrusts someone with access to you and the ability to observe what you do when you're at your most vulnerable and least guarded. And it involves a complex process of negotiation, such as when one person turns one way, how does the other respond, that takes place in a state of semi-consciousness. In a world where sexual hookups arranged online are shrugged off by many as not particularly earth-shattering events, actually spending the night with someone is taken as an activity worthy of note, as a sign of developing intimacy between the two individuals involved. I cannot help but recall in this regard the farm Peter and I once visited for the purpose of purchasing some peacocks. The animal-loving proprietors told us of their adoption of a young deer, a buck, whose bond of affection with them grew so much that he, even as he grew and developed antlers, showed up nightly to be admitted to the house and to sleep with the couple in their bed. As he grew, he eventually pushed the husband out and onto the floor. The couple told us how he was tragically, even they suspected vengefully, shot by a neighbor during hunting season. They demonstrated their love for the creature by showing pictures of him in their bed. Which brings me to Pepsha. Our sheep generally sleep solo, except for one familial pattern I've long noted. Mothers and daughters generally sleep in pairs, and it goes well past the time of weaning into adulthood or young adulthood. I imagine the young males would sleep with their mothers too if we did not keep our males and females in separate zones. It seems an almost universal pattern among our sheep, except for Pepsha. Pepsha is what my grandparents would have called in Yiddish a real Vance. To my mind, the term translates as a lovable Dennis the Menace type, always getting into some kind of innocent trouble. My family always affectionately dubbed my brother Howard a Vance. When I looked the term up in the Urban Dictionary, however, I learned that its origin is in the Yiddish term for bedbug or louse, and that its standard translation is obnoxious punk. Trust me, I use the term in its more affectionate, loving form to describe Pepsha. Pepsha is the one lamb of her year who charted an independent course. She's the one who figured out how to sneak into the corral all summer to get the first bites of the grain treats we give them before we open the gates for the rest of the sheep to enter. She has been excellent at getting into places she's not supposed to be. She's the daughter of Aisha, one of the oldest ewes currently in the flock, and Aisha is the daughter of the late Sultana, one of our earliest and most beloved bottle-fed lambs, who seems to have taught Aisha to relate to and bond with humans in a way that most sheep do not. Pepsha has, in turn, inherited that person-friendly demeanor from Aisha. What Pepsha has not inherited, however, is the habit of virtually all her predecessors of sleeping huddled in a big spoon, little spoon pod with her mother. Lately, in fact, she's used her Houdini-like ability to wriggle through small openings in fences to cross into the part of the barn and adjacent pasture where Troy has isolated 5 older ewes with hoof problems that need attention. She spends the night with them. At grain treat time, she often wriggles back into the other part of the barn where Aisha and the others are fed their treats to beat them to it. But by morning she is most often back with the other ewes, with whom she passes most day and most of the night. I've asked Troy, who spends a lot of time observing the minute details of the sheep's behavior, what he thinks may account for this perverse habit of Pepsha not sleeping with her mother. He speculates that it might have to do with our having weaned her exceptionally early to give Aisha a better chance to recover from having given birth at such an advanced age. If Troy is right, then Pepsha's behavior may in fact be the proof of the rule that the intimate act of sleeping together is an expression of affection. The early weaning may have cut short the development of an affection dictated by the tight bonds of family, and opened the door to Pepsha to make her own choice of who to sleep with. A thoroughly modern you, expressing a deep and fundamental need.
Agriculture is underwritten by Turkana Farms, LLC, a small-scale producer of heritage-bred livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres in Germantown, New York. More information, 518-537-3815.